So a little bit about myself. I know, Karen, you've been in a practice with me or two before. Susan, I think it's the first time. Um, I'm a yoga therapist, a certified yoga therapist. I'm actually on a teaching sabbatical right now. It's been about a year. So I, it's really lovely. I'm allowing for these bi-monthly or every other month rather kind of meetings as an opportunity for me to kind of drop back into what I love most. Practice is a big part of my life, so I really feel like I'm in a phase of integration right now. But I initially I started practicing yoga very young, but I got into a yoga therapy path because of chronic pain, not because of diabetes. I did write a book about yoga therapy for diabetes, but really the initial point for me was because I had a back injury in my early 20s, and I wanted to find a way to get out of pain, and that was really the goal. But what I found, and I guess now 38. So it's been 15 years of navigating chronic pain, is that there's not a clear answer. It's very similar to diabetes, right? There's not a clear answer, there's not a clear path, and there's not one formulaic process that works across the board. It's an individual experience, and a lot of similarities between chronic pain and diabetes because they're both chronic conditions. So in many ways, it's complex, but in many ways, it's simple. And, when this was offered to me, I said yes, because I have so much background in the science behind all of this. But I guess in this sabbatical that I've been taking, I've been really diving into my own practice, reading and researching, and in this process of integration, I'm recognizing how little I do know. And I'm recognizing a lot of, I guess, how do I say, that so much of the wellness world, there is this rhetoric of healing all the time. And I think that is a little bit problematic, because it kind of sets this tone that if we're doing the work, that there should be a cure to it. Are you following me?
Totally.
And it's kind of like with diabetes too. I mean, again, there's so many similarities. It's like you feel like if you're doing the work with diabetes, that for some reason that the number should always be like you don't have diabetes. Whereas with chronic pain, it's like, oh, well, if you're doing the work, you're eating right, you're doing the exercises, you're taking care of yourself, that for some reason that this pain should go away. And I was really on that journey for a long time. And I think it got really dangerous for me, because as I was studying so much about yoga therapy, and really the whole premise was to help people reduce or even remove or cure themselves from pain, and I couldn't do that for myself, it started to make me feel like I didn't know what I was doing, or that I could not, that I wasn't good at what I did. And I've just been thinking about this a lot in the last month, knowing that we've had this session together, and what that meant for me. We all have a story, right? We all have a story, and that's part of my story. But what I have to offer for us today, really, I think, in terms of this, in terms of our ability to navigate it, and what I'd like to impart upon you is some concepts that are based in philosophical teachings that I find, for me, mentally and in my heart, that allow for deeper acceptance. And then I'll walk you through a guided practice that I'm not going to say that it's for chronic pain, because again, like, it's non-formulaic. I can't say like, oh, well, if you do this breathing practice and you meditate on this mantra and you do it this way, that it's going to alleviate you from pain. I think there's a lot of people out there that want to hear that. And I think there's a lot of teachers out there that are saying that, but they're just snakes oil salesmen. We've got to find this process that we can navigate it on it in a way that feels it feels akin to who we are and what we're going through and what we need. And when we can identify that, it gives us really the power to tap into these deeper practices and to really have a relationship with ourselves and with the world around us. So first thing is that it's a myth that if we do the work, that it will go away. And that's not distinct from diabetes. The other thing is, a lot of times I think in meditation practice and wellness practices, yogic-based practices, and I even hear this in the diabetes community, like the saying of, well, I am not diabetes, I'm more than diabetes, right? And I think that that's very helpful for us to be able to create that separation between me, the individual, being able to observe the changing circumstances and conditions of diabetes, or the changing circumstances and conditions of pain. But on another layer with it, another, I guess, aspect of that is that the more we create the separation of I am not that, the more we kind of disallow this experience of feeling it. Because if we're feeling it, it is on a certain level, it's real. And again, it continues to come back to this kind of like statement or question of like, do we have to have a cure for this? Does it have to go away, right? In order for us to be living well. And so again, it's complicated, but it's very simple. That we can have the separation between me, I, the observer, feeling this, but also observing it. But also this, I guess, union, or this absorption in the experience of not negating it at all, of not denying it and not saying that's not me. It's saying that this is me and that I am everything. And I think we learn this so much through practice, is our ability to tap into the cosmos, to the universe itself, to the nature, whatever you want to call it, and to be able to embrace it all, which, you know, if you study the ancient practices, like the highest form of practice is your ability to embrace it all. The good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, right? That it's all there. That's I, that's the ultimate universal I. And this is a really like heady topic to go into. And it's a very difficult thing, I think, as a guide, to be able to explain and quantify all of this with words. And I think that's so, you know, why I think we're often looking towards science. And I think science is great because we can quantify it, we can put numbers behind it, we can say this kind of practice is impacting your nervous system in this way, and this is going to help support, and so we can prove these things. But another level, when we meditate, we're tapping into something that we can't explain, right? And that experience that is inexplicable is more of a feeling, a whole feeling of being integrated with it all. And so when you're experiencing pain or experiencing the pain of navigating a chronic illness, your ability to connect with it all and to be in it all, I mean, like, there's your answer, right? And so, again, complicated and simple. I think the most important thing is that we stay curious, that we are constantly involved in this process of trying to like connect the dots. Like, for instance, I keep relating it back to diabetes, but like this morning I was camping, I woke up, it was, 36 degrees outside, it was cold. And that's one variable that I don't have control over, but I also know that like that's going to impact my blood sugar. And so the moment I woke up, I had my coffee like I always do. That's something that it was similar, but the weather was different and being outside camping was different. And I know from past experiences that if I give myself insulin when I'm camping, whereas I give myself insulin the second I wake up at home, that I knew that if I gave myself insulin, that it was probably going to get low. So this morning, I didn't give myself insulin like I usually do when I'm at home because of the weather, because of the circumstances around me. But for some reason, I got high. And my pump, which is a tandem, it like bolused for me, right? Not understanding the situation, right? And so what ended up happening was like, I got high, bolused, but it didn't know that I was outside. I went and I walked around and I got low, and then I got high again and I got low again. And all I'm trying to say is that's part of the process. But if I had not been curious and paused and considered, what's going on here, I wouldn't have been able to link with the fact that I knew that this morning I decided not to take insulin. And maybe it was a bad idea. I should have taken a little bit of insulin and it would have mitigated this whole circumstance. But it didn't. And so what I'm trying to say is it's not dissimilar from pain. It's like when you're experiencing pain, you've got to ask yourself, well, is there something I'm doing? Is there something in this process that's attributing to what it is that I'm experiencing? And potentially there's some things that you can do to change that, right? Stop doing some things that might actually be attributing to it, or start doing things that might actually be beneficial. That could be part of it. So observing connections, trying to find these correlations, studying these, causes and effects. So we have some semblance of influence, of control over the change. But ultimately, regardless of how much you can infer and study and try to make the connections, there's going to be things that are out of your control. Pain, if you look at like an image, like you look at an image of my spine, you'll see like 5 different herniated discs, right? But when I got surgery to fix it, that didn't go away. The pain didn't go away, right? And so all I'm trying to get at is like, we can put the effort in, but just because you can see it doesn't mean that that's exactly where it's coming from, right? And I do not profess to be a specialist in pain management. I've been managing my experience with it my whole life, but I've seen a lot of neurologists in my life. And I also know that they don't really know either. Everyone has a different opinion. But what I do know is that once a pathway has been created, once a neural pathway has been created for pain to respond, it's like a flow of a river. It's really hard to stop that flow of the river to continue. So it really takes a long time. Like Susan, you're talking about this like process of it being so much longer than you expect, right? We can't always pinpoint it. It's transient, it moves. We might be able to associate it with an experience, with a trauma, with, I really don't like using that word, but like an accident, just because it's so overused. But it's something that once a pathway has been created, it's hard to stop it, but you can continue to influence it and move it. So really, that was the foremost thing about yoga therapy that I was taught by my teachers, is that, I mean, and this is concurrent with really all wisdom traditions, is that change is constant. Suffering, dukkha, is a result of us being identified and attached with not wanting change to happen, or identified with the change, expecting that it's going to stay the same when it continues to change. But as a practitioner, whether you're a meditation practitioner, whether you're a life practitioner, whatever it is that you do, whatever it is that you tap into to help you, that your power is your ability to influence a direction of change. And it might not be 100%. Like I said from the very beginning, it's a myth that there's a cure. And the second that we get attached to having to cure ourselves of it, just like with diabetes, that causes more suffering. But what we have is our ability to navigate it, right? And our ability to embrace it all, because it's all I. It is all the I, the infinite I, even the pain. I want to see if there's any questions of anything I've said thus far before we move forward, or comments. You got a little heart from Rena. Thanks, Rena. I mean, I could have come here and said, this is what you need to do, right? And here's the answer, and here's the formula. But that's not real. But what I do know is real is this ability to connect with something much bigger. Karen, did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, I like the idea of noticing pain and not isolating it in terms of the perception of who I am, and taking it in and exploring the nature of it, so that it's not a foreign thing that overtakes me. It's something that is a part of me, as what I like for breakfast. And, you know, to make it acceptable or friendly on that level, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Yeah, that was a really beautiful paraphrase of it. So succinct. I like that word, friendly, because it doesn't feel friendly.
No, it doesn't. A lot for me in regards to pain is more mental pain, more emotional pain. And I don't live with chronic physical pain. I live with diabetes, which is not a picnic, but yet, you know, what I identify with living with pain is more of the emotional constancy of that.
Yeah.
You know, and that was certainly there in my experience prior to diabetes. It didn't skip a beat, you know, once diabetes came along.
Mhm.
So just wanted to share that.
No, it's so true. And I say that all the time. It's like it's diabetes is just an example. It's like the microcosm of the macrocosm. Everything that comes up when we're managing it is just exemplary. It's a mirror onto everything else within ourselves and our physical, mental, whatever you want to call it, our patterns, our beliefs, the way we view the world, right? So yeah, it's friendly, it's fun in a way. Another thing, like, I think that I'm grappling with is going back to this idea of like never experiencing pain or having to cure ourselves with that. So much of the yoga practice is based on this concept of tapas. And tapasya, it's a Sanskrit term that translates as austerity. And austerity is like a thing that someone, a spiritual practitioner, does that's uncomfortable. And it's through that discomfort that they are able to achieve higher states of consciousness, to get closer to the source through this discomfort. And it's not that I'm relating to no pain, no gain. But again, going back to this myth that like the practice should completely remove us from pain. What if we can change that relationship and allow it to be, like Karen said, this friendly guide that the discomfort can be in a way like a portal, a doorway, to accessing something that's much more potent, and that it's actually a quicker route. And again, I'm not trying to say like you need to be in pain, but I'm saying that I think that there's a lot of rhetoric out there about us never ever experiencing pain, alleviating our traumas, all these different things. And I think on a certain level, navigating it, working with it, using it as an opportunity can really help us. And it's another term in Sanskrit, it's called praktipaksha bhavana. It's a praktipaksha bhavana is to like cognitively refrain an experience and reframe that experience as a positive. Really allows for that friendliness to drop into our day-to-day experience, rather than it being this thing of like, well, how do I just get out of this? But if you're listening to me right now and you're like, okay, well, that's fine and good, but I do need strategies. There are strategies. I'm not saying we've got to sit in pain. I think going back to the curiosity point, it's important to understand what's going on, understand as much as you can about physically what you can do to improve a situation, whether that's stop doing something that's bothering you, start doing something that may be advantageous. It's always more challenging to work with acute pain. So pain that is like from an accident, something that you're like right deep in the middle of, right? It's very, very challenging to work with that. Whereas chronic pain, it's maybe not as intense, but it's obviously longer lasting. So it's usually easier. Let me see if I'm going to refrain that. No, I can't refrain it. It's usually easier to work when you're not with something, when you're not in extreme pain. Okay. Like when I'm having a flare up, to ask myself to sit in a comfortable position and meditate, you gotta be kidding me. We gotta find a different way. So, there's different strategies one can employ. It's really about figuring out what works for you. Some things that work for me personally very well. One is I absolutely adore pressure point therapy. This is like it's called a yoga tune-up ball. It's a great method. It's called the roll-up method. Actually, Susan, thinking of you and your recovery from the bike accident, this could be something that's really useful. You can see it's kind of like squishy, but there's a book, it's called The Tune-Up Method, actually, by, what is her name? Jill. It's been so long since I've been like a year out of the scene. I'm like forgetting her name, but it's a great book. She's actually coming out with a new one, and it allows you to do all these different pressure points in areas of tension. So let's say you can't do stretching. Let's say you can't even go out on a walk, to be able to like work with some of these areas of concentrated tension can be really useful. Like I had an LCL tear on my knee. Just getting into those areas can be very, very useful. So that's one thing on a physical level. Another thing is, gentle stretching. We want to be able to move our bodies in a way that doesn't create pain. Oftentimes when, like I was talking about how if you're experiencing pain, you're going to have different specialists tell you what you can and you cannot do. It's just like when you're pregnant, they're like, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, is that true? So you need to keep those things also with like a grain of salt. Because like for me, for instance, when I first had my back issues, I was told I could never bend forward again. Like these like really intense, like you can never ever do this ever again. And it created so much fear and tension in my body that I could never bend over again. And then if you really think about it, like we have to bend over every day just to like put our shoes on and to like grab something off the floor. So it's just so ridiculous that, like these terms are like never ever, when it's like realistically, is that really, really true? So please be conscientious of the fear that is created around what you can and cannot do. Listen to your body and ask yourself, does it make it worse? Is that really true? And try to have a sense of ease around it, and really just listen and be in tune with it. Not to say you need to negate instructions out there by all means. I mean, there's definitely truth into some things for sure. But gentle stretching, movements that do not bother you. Like I can't do twisting. Twisting bothers me. Every time I do it on my back hurts. So I don't do twisting anymore. Many of you have done like a yoga nidra practice with me or someone else before. Yoga nidra is a wonderful strategy, especially if sitting. Traditionally, meditation is done in a seated position, whether that's in a chair or on a cushion. For a long time, sitting was the most excruciating thing for me, and I had to find a way to be comfortable. And yoga nidra was one way doing that, which is a reclined practice. It's not technically meditation, but it's like a sister strategy, complementary practice that really allows for deep relaxation, and being able to put our nervous systems into a deeply parasympathetic state that allows for a greater ability for our body's natural processes to regenerate and recuperate, to heal. I put that within abstracts. All right. So, and walking as well as you can. But I think for meditation, if you can find a comfortable position, the practice I'd like to offer to us today It's quite an expansive practice. I'd like for us to be able to experience what it is that I'm talking about, of being able to tap into the expansiveness of it all. And so I choose this practice intentionally because I didn't want us to have a practice where we just went in and psychoanalyzed what we were feeling. Whereas, I mean, that can be sometimes definitely useful, but I'm choosing a practice that's more expansive intentionally to tap into this universal I, not like eyeball, but I, like I am, like it's not me. It's not the little me. It's not the ego. It's the universal I. Difficult to talk about with words, much easier to tap into through feeling. And it is not a practice of negation. If some of you may be experienced with like practices of negation, this is more of a practice of acceptance and allowing. Which has like it is a very sweet, again, I go back to the word that Karen said, it's friendly, a friendly feeling to it. So I want to know if there's any questions before we begin. I expect we'll be here for about a half an hour. Okay. So I'm going to invite everyone just to transition into a comfortable position. I'm going to turn off the fan. It's getting a little cold in my room here. So again, comfortable. It's a very relative term. If you can sit upright, please do so. And then close your eyes. Just begin by deepening and lengthening your breath. Let the breath be friendly, familiar. Breathing easily in and out. Relax. Relax any tension in the shoulders. Relax the face. Sitting nice and tall. An easy yet alert presence. You're consciously shaping your breath. So here, a little bit of like a valving or constriction in your throat. So the breath is becoming fuller and richer, but again, no tension. Be curious. Curiosity requires checking in, not out. Check in with the breath. Feel it as it expands the lungs, the front, the sides, the back. Watch where it easily moves. Watch where maybe not so easy. Start to direct the breath with loving kindness and curiosity into those areas in the back that are less readily available. And it's just you and the breath. Just you and the breath. That old familiar friend. Please set the intention to be open and curious to whatever may come or not come of this practice. To be open and curious to whatever may come or not come of this practice. And just you and the breath. So now we're going to add on to this breathing practice with an alternate nostril breath. Now you're welcome to do a traditional placement of the hand, or you can also visualize the air flowing as you continue breathing as you are at this moment. So don't change anything by way of your breathing. But if you do want to use the hand, this is called Nadi Shodhana. You'll close your right nostril and valve the left. So you're applying a little bit of pressure on the left side. Relax the throat and inhale through the left. And you'll exhale out the right, closing the left nostril, valving the right. Inhale right. Close the right, valve the left, exhale. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. Inhale left. Observe the breath descending to the heart. Exhale right. Observe the breath from the heart moving out the right nostril. Inhale, right nostril to the heart. Exhale, left nostril from the heart out the left side. Inhale left. Breath descends to the heart space. Exhale right from the heart space out the right side. Please continue to a few more rounds. It's you and the breath. Mind is open and curious. Pay attention. Let it be easy. For the next exhalation, lower the hand. Let's take a few normal breaths. Relax. And integrate the effect. Less in the mind, more in the body. Hopefully feel there's more of a concentrated awareness in the region of the heart. Be open and feel. Relax into the feeling of the heart. there's a space. The answer to accessing this space is not effort. It's open curiosity. Keep relaxing until it reveals itself. Feeling at the heart. Like an open, clear blue sky. Allow the breath to move through this space. Open to the blue sky. Remain effortless. Open curiosity. And sense when the body breathes in, the light at the heart grows brighter. The body breathes out, that light heart absorbs deeply in the center. Expanding, contracting. Light of the heart. Clear blue sky. Don't try to stop thoughts or the distractions. The only effort is relaxing into the light building and reabsorbing. soon a dawning of awareness. That light that shines so brightly is infinite. Like it's a part of you and it's a part of everything. You're in it, it's around you. That light of the heart, light of the sky. The breath connecting the two. From that opening arises mantra, the imminent sound of creation, of infinite truth, undying knowledge. Feel so hum on the in, so the out hum. So inhale, hum on the exhale. Feeling is the meaning. The meaning is the feeling. I am the infinite I, the light of the heart, clear blue sky. expansive presence back into the body. Begin to deepen and lengthen the breath once again. Follow the breath with awareness. Feel how one can be both expansive and integrated, curious and open, whole at the same time. Feel the sensations in the body. Sensations of the breath. Ease. Come back at your own time. Thank you for allowing me to guide you through this practice and just to share a little bit about my own process and experience. And I all I can hope is that it's of service in some capacity. See if there's any comments or questions before we close this evening. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you for what you shared. And it feels very compatible with what I was thinking about when I was going through it. I was thinking that I would like to be able to have the experience, but not get into a state of such extreme aversion. Like, I've got to make it stop. I've got to make it stop. But to be just like, this is part of my experience.
Thank you for that. I'm happy to hear that landed. And I wish you luck with this next part of it, journey.
It definitely landed for me too, as I'm dealing with my shoulder, and it's a longer process than I thought, because nothing is ever quite straight as we anticipate, and it's going to be long, so, and slow, and I mean I have range of motion, but the pain is still there and it's not going anywhere, so I'm trying to be patient in the process. And long-term back pain is there. That's never, I mean, I had back surgery 6 years ago, and back stuff never goes away. We all know that. So yeah. So no, yeah, I'm definitely gonna be getting those. That's gonna, Amazon.com is my favorite. So I'm gonna go look at that right now.
Check it out and let me know if you have questions about any placement with it. When I broke my arm a few years ago, it was also really, really helpful with, but everyone's different. A broken arm is different if it's like neurological with the shoulder, but thanks for joining me, Rena, and thanks for your comments. I'm glad to hear it's landing.
Always. It always lands.
Lance. Anyone else? Hey, Jordy. Okay. Well, I'm always available. You can email me at evan.soroka@gmail. Please let me know if you have any further questions, and just look forward to guiding you guys again. It probably won't be for another month or so, but I'm also open to suggestions of any like topics you'd like to cover, from diabetes to practice to, even going deeper into these concepts that we talked about today. So thank you guys, and have such a wonderful rest of your evening. Namaste.